Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, guys. We're a little bit late, so I think we can start right away. Thanks for showing up today. I'm actually really excited because we have someone who I think honestly doesn't need a long intro. Nick Eubanks, VP of Owned Media at SEMrush and multiple exits, and also someone who's actually been in the trenches. And today he's here not only just give us a theory, but also to share what's really happening in the marketing world right now. So welcome, Nick. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, no, I was very excited to come and talk to you all today. Just at the speed that everything I think is changing. There's a lot of um, there's a lot of opportunity, but I think there's also a lot of bad information floating around. And I think what's really important that I'm learning and that my team is sort of figuring out on a near constant basis is it's probably, I would say, more important to understand the things that you should stop doing, almost more so than the things that you should start. I think the thing that I see across my four teams that I currently manage are organic search, affiliates, growth marketing for which is the name for the team that manages assets within our portfolio once we buy them. So like Backlinko, Traffic Think Tank, Exploding Topics, Search Engine Land, Martech, Right, Prowly, Compite, big list of brands, and then media acquisitions. And the thing that we're seeing more and more is a lot of the teams got really excited about automation and efficiency. The finance team is excited that we're going to save money, and the team's excited that they can get more done in less time. And while both of those are true, I think there's a really important perspective to talk about, which is we're finding that there are a lot of things that AI can't quite do super well yet. And I think a lot of people, I would venture to guess almost anybody on this call that's really tried to go gung ho and introduce AI into a lot of their business or their process, for marketing and anywhere in the marketing stack, has probably been disappointed. Probably like, oh man, like this, I signed up for this tool for image generation or for written content creation or for translation, and you run it and you're like, shit, this is just not that good. Actually, I can't really use this. And what we found is that there are certain things that AI is trained, it can be really, really good at, and there's other things that it's just not there yet. And so, uh, understanding how to create a process that is more human in the loop, which is like, hey, this whole process can't be handled by AI, but these pieces of the process are actually great if we have human support sort of in between. Funny enough, just before this call, I was walking an agency through how to speed up their content creation process because right now they're using AI for the briefs, but then not for the drafts. And this is like sort of the thing that I'm seeing a lot, which is like, hey, in my opinion, you're actually using AI for the parts that you shouldn't, and humans for the parts that should be done by AI. And so what I mean by that is the one, like if I have to make sort of a blanket statement that I think is really effective in terms of like a reframe for how to think about approaching a solution using artificial intelligence, it's to break it into its smallest possible pieces. Like, so it's not, hey, I'm gonna go scrape this content. Like, you're not gonna tell an agent, hey, I'm gonna scrape this content. And then that scraped content, I want you to analyze it. And then after you've analyzed it, I want you to tag it for these themes. And then I want you to spit it into a sheet. It's gonna crap the bed, right? It's not gonna work. It's too much processing power. It's you're blowing out the context window, even if you're using like an OpenAI that has memory. So what do you do instead? You think about breaking those things into the smallest possible pieces. So the first one is like, all right, I'm just going to scrape this content and I'm going to have it populate in this Google sheet. That's the loop. That's the process. That part's done. Now I'm going to have it do that for let's say you're trying to do trend analysis. So you're scraping one source or multiple sources. Let's say for the sake of conversation, you're scraping Twitter and LinkedIn and X, and you're trying to get themes together. So it would be, I'm going to scrape these 100 accounts on X. I'm going to scrape these 100 profiles on LinkedIn, and I'm going to scrape these 5 subreddits and comments on Reddit. And each one of those should be its own start to finish, end cap loop. I'm going to do this thing, and that data is going to go into this sheet. And then I'm going to do this other one. It's going to go into a separate sheet. I'm going to do this other one. It's going to go into a separate sheet. And I realize I'm getting really granular. I just feel like the details here are really important because this is a little. I realize I'm like being very tactical, but these are the things I think it's really easy to mess up and sort of oversimplify when the minutia of the complexity is what really makes these things work. And so, getting the data into these sheets and then running a process where it's for this sheet, now go through and look for themes. These are the things that AI can actually be really good at. So what are the themes from this sheet of content? Pull those all out and put them into this output, which is a new tab in the same sheet, and then do the same in this sheet. And you're working in separate groups, right? These are separate populations of data across 3 different sheets, and you're running different processes in different tabs. So you've got your source data, which is just scraped raw data. You've got your initial first set of analysis in a new tab. And then from that, you can create tags. You would then want to take the analysis, have it go back, tag the source data, repopulate a third tab. You're trying to see what I'm getting at here, where like it is like it's a lot of extra steps. And these things can ramp up your processing costs, right? So like to run this whole thing across, let's call it these 3 data sources, and maybe you've got 3,000 output threads and you want to tag the themes and you want it to come up with headlines and topics and write a brief for this trend, this might be a $15 run, which is pretty expensive, but you have to understand that this is probably saving, 2 or 3 hours of like a content strategist or an SEO's time manually, where they were going and doing this before, and they would make mistakes because of human error and all that fun stuff. So while it does seem expensive from an automation standpoint, the time savings here is actually pretty incredible. The other thing I think it's worth talking about is understanding what the tools are right for. So like understanding when to use which models is something that I'm spending a lot of time on these days. So for like this process I'm talking about right now, right, this sort of trend analysis process, one thing I realized was we were using Sonnet from Claude. I think it was Sonnet 3.7 for all of this, and it was expensive and it was taking a lot of time. And what we realized was that's not the best model for this process as a whole. It's a great model for parts of it. It's a great model for the writing part, but it's not a great model for the parsing and analysis part. Haiku is actually way better, and it's faster and it's cheaper. So, one other thing that I would just encourage is to look for opportunities to test different models. One route you can take to potentially help speed this up is there is a tool called OpenRouter. And OpenRouter runs on a credit model, but it's not expensive. You could chuck $5 in there if you want. And what OpenRouter does really well is as soon as a new model comes out, it doesn't matter who puts it out, OpenAI, Anthropic, to Google, whatever. Within a matter of hours, that model is available in OpenRouter. So OpenRouter has this knack. What it does is you go and you make a request for a task, or you give it a prompt. It could be a question, a request, a command, and OpenRouter will decide which model is the best, has the highest efficacy rate, like is the best model for that given prompt, directive, question, whatever it is. So you don't have to even know the ins and out of the model. You can let AI make the model choice for you. Something, again, AI is actually very good at. The hard part there is, right, this OpenRouter runs on an API. And unless you're really comfortable with command line and writing bash, command lines, which most people are not, I certainly am not. It's like a little beyond me. So the solution there is to go buy a chat front end. The one that I like to use is called Chatwise. It's Chatwise app. I think it's $29 one time. It's not an ongoing cost. So like, but it just gives you that chat interface, and then you can plug it into whatever model you want. But just Chatwise plugged into OpenRouter is like a 10x unlock for like learning how to use AI for what AI is good for. Hopefully this is all making sense. I know I sort of just jumped into the deep end there pretty quickly. But I thought these were sort of the high points, right? Was just to sort of set the stage on like rewiring your brain for how, how you can be using these tools and the things that it is and isn't good for. Um, I I don't know if Corlin, if you want to open up like discussion. I mean, I'd love to I'd love to find out more like what people are working on, where they're getting stuck. That's where I've personally found the most help when I talk with folks on a, I speak to agency owners all week long, and when I talk to folks, it's the things, the fastest information that I gain, the most that I learn is when we can have sort of an open discussion, and they can bring to me like, hey, I tried to use this tool or this model, or this is the process I'm working on, and this is where it broke, or I'm not sure how to approach this. That sort of collaborative, I think, approach here is where things get really fun.
Yeah, yeah, sure. We can have a discussion right now. Guys, do you have any questions? Then you can just drop your questions in the chat or ask to unmute yourselves. Then I'll mute you.
Yeah, I'd love to know what
So,
people are working on. Like what types of processes, like are you building, do you have your own products? Are people building their own startups? Are you in-house? Are you a consultant? I think would be helpful too, because I think the use cases are definitely very different. The things that again, things that AI I think are actually really good at is like structured data. So one of my favorite things to do is, at least for a first pass, is if I get like an export of a bunch of like traffic analysis. Like let's say I take an export from Google Analytics or from whatever analytics tool, and I want to upload that CSV. It's also good with PDFs too, but upload, say it's a CSV into something like ChatGPT 5, like thinking model, and then just being able to ask questions like, hey, what days were traffic going up? What was the correlated event? What was happening in the news those days? Was there a release? Like you can just sort of ask these things that feel kind of like magic. And the more I think you start to test the boundaries of what, the things that you almost can't believe that these technologies can do, I think the more it opens your mind up into new ways to use the tools themselves. This is why I think I don't remember who said it, but some influencer had said, like, if you're not skill maxing, I think it was Nathan Barry, actually, the founder of Kit. He was saying, if you're not spending a couple hours a week skill maxing on AI, like you're gonna fall behind. And so he got a lot of flack because I think a lot of people were like, oh, that's like fear mongering. You can't say that. Like I'm doing just fine. Like, AI is not coming for my job. And I think that's right in a lot of ways. What's funny is like the things that felt completely safe 10 years ago have kind of flipped on their head. Like people are like, oh, writing, yeah, writing's dead for AI. It's the exact opposite. Writing is not dead. Drafts, are dead, but like the storytelling aspect, the creativity, understanding like which details to pull in when, how to weave a narrative, AI still sucks at that. Like AI doesn't have the human experience to bring that in. So like I would argue that like writing has graduated to editing and create like this like creative editing process, but that's hugely valuable now. It's like the hardest thing we have to find. Whereas like developers, people are like, oh, web developers are dead. Like we're not going to need web developers anymore. Couldn't be further from the truth. Anybody who's ever tried to vibe code an app, it doesn't matter what you're using, right? Like if you're doing Claude Code or Cursor or Bolt or Lovable, you've probably gotten the first 90% of your app done inside of 2 hours. You're super excited. You're going to be $1 million SaaS founder. And then when you try to push it to production, everything falls apart because you don't understand how to configure a super like a database, or how to spin up a server, or how to push the production files, all of the code apps, almost for almost all of them, I should say, hallucinate entire files. They'll give you files that, and some of them are just empty. So like there are like that. What we're seeing because of it is the outcome is there is this growth in this new focus area, which is like they're calling it last mile development, which is you can vibe code, something and get a prototype and a concept sort of almost there, but getting it that last mile, that last 10% can take 10 times as long, especially if you don't know how to write code or you don't know how DevOps put all the pieces together. And so while the idea that like development is dying is completely false. I mean, it is going a lot faster, but it's also making these pieces at the end a lot more important. There are certain things though that I think AI has fundamentally changed forever. So like translation, AI is okay at, but like it still can't match local colloquialisms. It's still not ever going to work for like a true localized population if you're trying to translate. Like I've got a friend who has a translation agency in Mexico, and they mostly just translate content in Mexico for Mexican companies, which seems crazy until you understand that there's like 10 different dialects because the country is huge. And you want to match the local dialects for where the customers are. Like AI can't do that yet. Will it get there? I'm sure it will, but it's definitely just not there yet. On the flip side, if you're doing multilingual websites and you want to rank well in Google for each of those individual dialects, you have to use a tag in SEO called hreflang. Hreflang is one of the most convoluted and confusing configurations for any website in existence. Pros get it wrong. It's something that we used to, in a previous life when I had an SEO agency, we would work on these giant websites, millions of pages, sometimes across 5+ languages, and this was always the Achilles heel. This was so difficult to get right and so easy to mess up. And that is something like that because it's structured and it's structured data. It operates on rules. Rules can be rolled out at scale. This is actually like a great use case for like AI has kind of fixed hreflang forever. Yeah, similar to regex. I spent years reading regular expressions and learning how to write regex so I can write SQL queries and work faster in big data sets and Excel sheets. Completely useless now. That was a complete waste of time. Like AI has just solved regex. It gets it right pretty much every time. You don't even have to know what you're talking about. You can just tell what you want the output to be, and it'll write the regex for you. Um, I don't know. This is hopefully it's helping to just frame a little bit of I think where things are going and understanding the differences between these. So where what I think is also seemingly amazing right now is watching watching people who are starting to deploy agents to really run different parts of their business. So, like for example, I haven't like part of what I do is advisory for agencies. So I take phone calls with agency owners every week, and there used to be a lot of operational input for that. So like in order to do that, I would need like a VA or like an executive assistant or a virtual assistant who would be able to take notes and manage my calendar and pull from the notes like follow-ups like, oh, this needs to happen over here. Like this, like here's a task, here's a due date. And then additionally, there's things like having somebody run my social media accounts for the agency advisory business, uh, writing blog posts, creating content, sourcing images for the advisory brand, having somebody running outreach to do find prospects that meet my ICP, my ideal client profile, and automatically send them emails and DMs to generate new business. Manage like follow-ups and replies to emails as they come in, tag my emails so I'm only paying attention to the things that matters. Have a lawyer on staff to review contracts, contract language, make sure that I'm not signing things I shouldn't be, and that I'm covered in terms of potential inputs. And then lastly, like phone calls, which as a digital native, I hate, but it's a part of the business. So being able to have somebody who can answer calls, take notes, route, and all 6 of those roles have now been completely replaced by AI. So like I have a completely AI team now. There's one individual chatbot for each of those roles, but like it's completely automated. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Actually, I'm the head of community at GeekRater. So GeekRater is the also AI automation for Upwork freelancers and agencies to get rid of all of those manual processes that they do on Upwork, like job searching, sending cover letters, sending biddings, and etc. So yeah, and I would like to just ask one question, as a lot of people here rely on Upwork as their main channel. So we do have here um, now for freelancers and agencies. So with AI changing how clients search and evaluate talent, what do you think freelancers should do differently in their profiles, maybe to, let's say, stand out?
well, the one right is going to be like, do you guys at DappRater, do you publish any kind of reports, the like internal reports just for your agencies and freelancers that are like, hey,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like here's the new, like in the past 30 days, these are the keywords that these are the job related keywords that people are searching. These are like these ones went up this percentage month over month, these ones went down month over month. These are new ones that are just starting to happen. Like that feels like that would be extremely useful for people to know like what they should add into their profiles, right? Because the matching algorithm is still going to be based on natural language processing. And then on the flip side, I imagine that they would want to start like if I for for a bunch of my agency clients, their entire business is built on Upwork. I have one guy who started on Upwork as a single person. His name is Scott Johnson. He has an agency out of California called Amplified, and they now do millions and millions of dollars a year. And it all is thanks to Upwork. He got to his first $1 million in revenue each year was completely on Upwork. The whole business was grown on Upwork. And the things that he started to do was obviously there's some things that your top freelancers are going to be aware of, right? Like response rates are like one of the main ways to get new business. So, response rate automation, but only way that's going to work really well is if you've got a prompt that's dynamic enough that it can look at a job rec, it can parse all the important words, it can language match, it can solution match, it can pull out relevant examples from their work history and use those and testimonials all in that response. So you start to think about like there's response time, which is like probably if I had to come up with a group of heuristics for like weighting the success of how you grow on Upwork, it would be like response time would probably be like a 30% weight, super high. And then another really high weight would be matched work experience, right? So it's like, all right, what are the requirements of this job? How do they match the work that I've already done or skills that I already have? And then being able to point to like, hey, it's not just, oh, I've done that thing and I have that skill. It's, hey, here, if you look at my work history, I did this job for this client. It was a 5-star job. And, it was this exact same work that you're asking for. Here's a testimonial that I went and got from that client. That's one thing that I don't see from a lot of early Upwork people is the like going and getting like they get reviews on their profile, but pulling those reviews into their profile themselves, like separately, including them in their cover letters or their job responses was something that I thought was a really cool way to stand out from everybody else. Um, and then also just offering like having work samples, right? Being able to point to the work that they did, especially for like any type of design or creative writing. Those sample pieces are something that I feel like only the best offer up proactively. Like, so I don't respond and have to ask. It's just like, oh, here's a sample of my logo work, my web page design work, my blog writing, landing page writing, copywriting, CRO, email, whatever the examples are. I think is huge. As somebody, uh, there was a time where I think probably so my last agency before I sold it, um, we grew to a little over 8 figures. So we were doing just under 13 million a year when I sold, and we used Upwork a lot as part of that. We would probably our general group of contractors and freelancers from Upwork at any given time was probably 50 or 60 people that we'd worked with before, and it wouldn't work with simultaneously, but constantly building and refining those relationships. And I think that's one of the most important things you can do on both sides, especially if you're an agency. The bigger your war chest of qualified freelancers are, the better you're going to be able to service your clients, the more redundancy you're going to have in case people get sick or change careers or retire, whatever it is that would take them out of the workforce. That redundancy in terms of tasks and roles, I think is a huge piece of the pie that a lot of folks get stuck with. Some of the fastest growing agencies that I've worked with, it's because the founder was really good at sales and really good at identifying what the products and services are that they needed to sell, and they didn't do any of the fulfillment themselves. They just ran the pipeline. They found the people, the freelancers they needed on Upwork, and they would just build these delivery processes. And so they're just getting the clients, closing the sales, handling all the client communication, and handing off the work to the Upwork workforce that's making all the fulfillment happen.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And you said that you used to hire people on Upwork, or you work there as an agency?
I used to hire
Used
people
to it as
for my agency.
okay. Yeah, great. So, what can you say as a hirer? Like, could you recognize their like AI generated cover letters from human written ones?
It depends. I mean, potentially, like there are a lot of humanizer tools out there that I think work really well. I mean, there's also just like there's some basics, right? Like don't use emojis, don't use an M dash. Like just replace your M dashes with commas. Really simple. Like just add that rule into memory. Don't use single stroke line breaks. Like you know what I mean? Like the full flat line to break section. Like there's things that just immediately scream like this was written by AI, and it's really easy to tamper that down. There's also like you can train ChatGPT, especially on your voice pretty easily. The easiest way to do it is actually doesn't cost anything. You can just go into your LinkedIn settings. You can export the last 12 months of all of your LinkedIn posts, even if you don't post very often. Let's say you post on LinkedIn once a month. It's still some training corpus. So you can go export that last 12 months of your personal posts into a CSV and just upload it and say, you know, the prompt's really simple. Match my tone and voice and then give it some characteristics about the way you want to sound professionally. So for me, it's like no nonsense, no humor, very analytical, keep it dry, keep it serious, use data whenever possible. Always try to find first party instead of third party, include the citation reference, like real basic stuff. Um, what I would say as an employer is there are certain things that like my requirement criteria, and this is something like I coach on today with my advisory clients is like I want somebody who has at least 100 hours of work build. I want at least a 4.8 star rating. I want no more than six simultaneous jobs open. Ideally, I want to see somebody who's billed more than $10,000. Like there's just some basics that sort of help me filter out when I'm looking for contractors. And folks, you know, who might be brand new to the platform are like, well, you know, well, crap, what am I supposed to do? I don't have 100 hours yet. I haven't billed $10,000. I would say that the time and the star rating and like the reviews are more important than the money billed. And so, right, like, so go do free work. Go do, you know, like just get the time that you've worked on the platform up. Just get those reviews up, you know, do work at a lower cost, cut your rates, reach out and work with the people you want to go find work on other platforms, which is surprisingly easy. But then, like when you find the work on the other platforms, bring them through Upwork, right? So if somebody asks you to do a job that you meet at a networking event in your local city, be like, hey, would you mind if we run this just through Upwork? I'm not, you know, like I'll either charge you through Upwork or I'll do this project for a heavy discount or for free, but I want to run it through Upwork because I'm trying to build my profile there. I think that stuff also really matters. I just saw Wendy said, did you also get clients from Upwork? Not me personally, not from my agency, but I work with a couple agencies that have built their entire agency on Upwork. So like if you look up like, and it's interesting. So what I was saying here is this is my favorite success story in terms of Upwork. So this is my client. They're a whole team now, but the founder, Scott Johnson, he started himself personally on Upwork. And when we started working together, I think he was doing about $400,000 a year on Upwork. And we were able to grow him on Upwork to over $1 million in new business that he was generating on Upwork. And Upwork still, they still get business today on Upwork. He's got a really good profile on there. But they now, you know, the business has grown so much that Upwork isn't their only channel, but it is a core channel. It's one of their most important channels.
It's super inspiring, I would say. Thank you very much.
No, it's
And
awesome. I'm a huge fan of Upwork since before the rebrand when it was Odesk.
yeah, great. And from your perspective, what skills or services on Upwork will still be in high demand, let's say, even as AI tools become more
Well, that's
advanced?
exactly it. That's the best question. I think the thing that is in the most demand right now is every company out there knows that they need to be using AI. Every company that's mid-market on, so let's say any company that's 10 million up to $1 billion, they're getting significant pressure from their boards, from their senior leadership teams, CEOs, CMOs, IOs, product officers. Everybody are like, what are we using for how are we using AI? What are we automating? Where are we cutting costs? Where are we increasing efficiency? It is the number one conversation that every single leadership team is having right now. And everybody is throwing up their arms. 95% of people have no idea. They're like, why can we? They either don't understand how AI works, so they try to throw AI at everything, or they don't understand how AI works, so they don't use AI at all. And being that AI consultant, going out there, I was sort of talking about a couple minutes ago, and skill maxing, just getting used to how these tools work, trying them out for yourself, and they're all low cost, right? Almost every tool that I stumble across on a weekly basis costs $20, you know, to go try. Like go try the tools. You'll very quickly be able to figure out like what works and what doesn't. Some of my favorite ones right now are One of my guys who does like a lot of proposals, like presentations for us, he used to spend 14 hours, doing these things, and it was not only expensive in terms of costs, but the time was just a killer. It would just take so long to turn these things around because of all the custom work. So one thing I had one of my folks do was I had them just spend a week and go test all of the presentation tools out there. I even like we felt like there was Pika and Gamma, and like we tested a whole bunch of them and they all sucked in all honesty, except for he came across one called Pop AI Pro. That one's actually the most decent one we found. You can prompt uh, which is really cool. Or you can upload a PowerPoint file, source file, and it will rip it all down and create your prompt for you. And then you can just retheme it and just add slides and automatically creates the design elements. So like that's a great one. Content writing, like Claude Sonnet is okay. Again, I think it's better at briefing, but actually like creating the output, the big models are not great. There's a tool called Lex Page, that's really good for that type of thing. I haven't found a great logo creator yet. But these are the types of things, right? Is I think it's knowing which tool, like it's knowing the tools you should be using, but then also being the consultant that can help companies figure out how they should be using AI. So and I mean, really, it's one of those things like it's trial by fire. Until you go, I think, and just test a bunch of these things for yourself and figure out how they fit into like your skill stack, your work stack, your clients. It's too broad of a question. Uh, the best answer, I think, really is becoming the AI consultant, because that's what everybody's looking for right now. Is I met a kid here in Miami, and I say kid because I think he was like 22 or 23 years old, just a week, like in the past couple weeks, in Brickell, and he graduated college last year, and he's got an AI consulting business. It's him, I think, and two friends now. They're up to $70,000 a month in average revenue, and they reach out to companies and they're like, hey, they start with like three simple questions, like, hey, how are you guys, running your social media account? Like they'll do a little bit of lurking is probably the right. We can call it analysis, but it's really lurking. So it's like, hey, I was checking out your Instagram account or your Twitter feed or your LinkedIn account and realized that you're only posting on your brand accounts. You don't have any personal people, like personal accounts yet that are using LinkedIn, and the brand amplification opportunities and using LinkedIn as a training data set is going to be much better on personal accounts, all affiliated with the same company than it is on the company accounts. So and anything you can offer for free always helps a lot. Like I can give you a very tangible example. So I just finished an experiment on Saturday where for 30 days, so from August 6th to September 6th, I turned my personal LinkedIn over to ChatGPT. So completely automated my whole LinkedIn. And the posts, so like the sourcing of the post ideas, the content scheduling, posting, all completely automated. The only thing I didn't automate was comments. So every 2 or 3 days, I would go in, I would personally actually respond to comments. That was something I wasn't comfortable. I didn't want to give that AI the total reins there because I think comments are where like opportunities really, really lie, not just for amplification, but potentially for business. And the output of which I can even actually share this in case you're interested, if anybody's interested. So I wrote up exactly how I did this and how you can do it too. It costs less than $100 to do this. $40 on Taplio, which is a tool that I use for a bunch of the automation and a lot of the analytics. And then I had a VA who was doing the post generation and scheduling for 1 hour a week for 4 weeks. So it's $40. So $80 all in to do this. But if you look on that page, the results were I got just under 200,000 impressions. I got over 3,000 engagements, over 1,000 comments. I picked up about 1,100 followers. And who cares about all that crap? That's vanity. What matters is it generated like 14 qualified new leads for me for advisory clients. I got multiple media inquiries. Corlin, you were one of the people that reached out and were like, "Hey, I saw you on LinkedIn. You're talking about these things." Like that wasn't me writing that content. That was just ChatGPT. Like, but it's a great use case, right, for where AI can work really well. And if you read the process posts on there, the biggest piece, the number one piece you start with in the process is training. It's the training data. It's coming up with all of the training data you have to find, right? So it's like exporting your LinkedIn posts. Maybe one question I got in reply when I sent this email out to my list on Tuesday was I had somebody respond to me. They're like, "This looks really cool, but I don't post on LinkedIn, so like I can't do this." I'm like, "No, no, no! Like, think bigger. Like, it doesn't have to be like go find somebody who's in your niche or operates in your vertical or is has a voice that you really respect, and just scrape all of their posts. You're not stealing their content. You're going to use their LinkedIn post as the training data for your GPT. Like, this is not." It's not only is it not illegal, it's not even unethical. This is just training data. You're just feeding it examples to be like, hey, this is the style and the topic that I care about. Write this way, think this way. You're training the AI to function the way you want it to. And once you've got the GPT, so like I call mine Nick GPT, like it's just my LinkedIn GPT. Once it's trained, like now I can go in anytime I want, or my VA can go in and just be like, give me 10 fresh posts on this week's current trends. And it spits out posts, and then he copies and pastes them into Taplio, schedules them, and I don't do anything anymore. Well, I respond to comments. But those types of like solution approaches is where I think there's huge opportunity for freelancers right now, to be the people who are reaching out to companies because you can do the same process on X. You could do the same thing. Like Instagram posts are now indexable. Like we're starting to see Instagram posts themselves rank on Google for important keywords. I saw one last week around podcasting software. Like that's a huge industry. Tens of millions of dollars are spent every year on podcasting software. So to like be able to write a post on in Instagram and have it rank in Google for such a valuable keyword, it's mind blowing.
Yeah, and also I've read the other day that AI is not going to replace people, but people who can use AI are going to replace people those who doesn't
Exactly. Yeah.
use
So
AI. Yeah, who
that was
don't
the
use
thing.
AI.
The most recent report that I saw from I think it was either Gartner or Nielsen Norman. It was one of like the really big research houses. And it was like, AI is going to destroy 20 million jobs, but it's going to create 35 million. Like it was like, hey, like these are all the things that like these are things humans don't want to be doing anyway. So AI is going to do them better. So like these jobs are actually going to go away. But here's all the new jobs that because of AI are going to be created. It was hugely outweighed. So that's the thing. I think the difference is not like AI is not going to take your job. The person who knows how to use AI is going to take your job.
Yeah, I agree. And have you seen the presentation of Apple the other day?
Oh yeah,
That was good. So you probably know Duolingo, right?
of course.
So after the Apple presentation aired, the Duolingo actually like stock like went low, went down because of this live translation. So like there's no need to learn languages anymore. Like,
Well, so what you're getting at too is like is again just to zoom out and talk about the bigger picture there. It's the moats, like the competitive moats that used to exist in a lot of industries. We're seeing them dry up in many cases. So like a great example was um, like HubSpot. HubSpot was one of the top CRMs, like top three. I think it's Salesforce and HubSpot and Pipedrive is becoming a big competitor, but it still was. And I don't think it replaced whatever it was, Harvest or whatever the big one was. But still, it was this CRM was this whole solution and huge market cap, multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company. And then you look at where things are at now with the ability for these product teams and development teams, the people who were all customers, the big a large portion of HubSpot's revenue. So like not a big portion of their customers, probably 20%, but like 70 some percent of their revenue because of how much those customers are paying. And being a CRM is no longer a moat because like the companies will roll their own instead of customizing somebody else's platform and it's paying Salesforce hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They'll take all their requirements, they'll export their schema, their customer database, because it's theirs anyway. It's not Salesforce's, and they'll go create their own version. So like that's the thing is anything that was just an interface before, that moat is gone. The people will create their own and they're beautiful and they'll do a better job. So what now becomes a moat is data. So one of the smartest things HubSpot has done in recent years was they bought Clearbit. So now you go like, why would somebody buy HubSpot instead of spinning up their own CRM if you're a multinational or multi-billion dollar company? It's because you can give it your ICP, your ideal customer profile, and when you go and sign into your HubSpot account, it's already populated with all the data for your entire sales organization. Like it's the same thing that's happening right now with us in a lot of ways with SEMrush. Is SEMrush used to be data and a UI, but now people are building their own UIs, or they're just working natively directly in their chat interfaces via an MCP. But thank God that SEMrush has the largest database of available SEO and AI SEO data, because without it, we wouldn't have a moat. So it's starting to think about like where this disruption is happening more and more. And like the people are the future is data, which I realize sounds like super old school, but like folks are going to stop paying for software as much as I think that they're going to just build their own to fit their unique needs of their business, of their operations, whatever it is. And so, figuring out where you can find the best data and which tools you should be using to build your own ecosystem is another big part of it, right? Like it's the next step of that sort of AI consultant. So it's like, where should you be using AI, and then understanding like how to fit the pieces of AI together to do a better job on business solutions. So like one of the people that I work with the most these days across both at SEMrush and across a couple of my advisory clients is he's an N8N consultant. So like that's all he does. He just takes like other people will bring him ideas, or more times than not, they'll bring him things that they tried to automate and they couldn't get it to work. Like I was talking about at the very beginning of the call, where they're like, "Hey, I want to be able to fill out this form and have it create a content brief, and have that brief go over here and create a draft, and that draft go to my editor, and then that get pushed into my project management tool, and then I want this person to go create screenshots for it, and this person to add references, and all he does is come in and break it apart and add the chunks into an N8N workflow. And that's like an entire job. And he's booked like crazy. I would imagine if you looked at search volume data on Upwork, the N8N searches have probably gone through the roof over the past 6 months.
Wow. Yeah, that's huge. So the AI is like gradually changing. Do you remember what ChatGPT was like a couple of years ago, and how it became like this huge LLM machine, like it can talk like a human being
Well,
and do everything?
that's
Like,
actually one
yeah.
of the biggest unlocks for me was when somebody on my team was like, "Oh, like you're typing into ChatGPT," and I was like, "Yeah, like I'm at my laptop, like why wouldn't I?" And he was like, "Have you just tried just talking directly into it?" And I hadn't. I just hadn't. I'm not like a big voice person. But that was a crazy unlock. Like when I started and especially on my phone, like when I, like walking somewhere and I have an idea, or I want to make sure I remember something, or some connection happens, to be able to open up ChatGPT and just speak directly to it. Like it's crazy how much of the nuances it picks up, because like that stream of consciousness when you're talking kind of it unlocks a different part of your brain than like when you're trying to type stuff in.
Yes, yes. Even it can become your personal therapist, Like,
That part scares me. I've heard like I have a couple friends that I've met that are like, "Oh, I don't go to my therapist anymore. I just talk to ChatGPT." I was like, "Oh God, no, no,
yes,
that's really scary. I wouldn't do that."
this is what I do actually right now. Yeah, ChatGPT is my therapist, and I don't have to spend more money to other therapists anymore. Like,
It's funny
this
because
is crazy.
ChatGPT by default is very positive, right? It's like definitely that's a great idea. It's very uplifting and supportive, which is very easy to fall into a trap of. I actually have I didn't write the prompt, but I found a prompt that makes mine like just the most cold-hearted, like stone cold killer. It's like there's no personality at all, because I don't want it to hallucinate. I don't want me to tell me an idea is good if it's bad. I'm like no, no, like just give it to me straight. So mine is not as positive of an experience, but I feel like as a tool, I feel like I get better outputs.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
So do you,
Yeah,
for,
so
for your therapist, do you have it, do you have a separate project? Like, do you just have a dedicated project that's just your therapist, or are you just like creating it?
no, yeah, yeah. I just open the chat, and I just type everything in my mind, and then I like just help me. And it can be like very supportive, like, hey, I can truly understand you, but in this situation, this is might be like the root cause of it. Maybe they are like childhood trauma, like something like
Yeah,
this. Yeah, so
that's pretty
that's
fascinating.
crazy.
I've not,
Yeah, and
I've not tried it myself. I'm like a little scared to do that.
but I can give it a try. That's actually interesting and scary a bit. Yeah, but still, it's so good.
Man,
to be
yeah,
honest.
I don't have a good excuse. I'm gonna have to try it.
Yeah, you can try it. And we have only 10 minutes left, but this our session turned out to be a little podcast today, which is really great. We like really interesting. And the last question, probably just going back to our main topic. If you were like starting fresh today as a freelancer or an agency on Upwork, what would be your top strategy to stay, let's say, relevant in the age of AI?
Well, I mean, I would be if I was just starting out, I would start as a freelancer. And because I mean, all 95% of the agencies I talked to were built off the back of one person, right? It's one person who had a skill and got good at selling and built their portfolio and then started to get more work than they could handle. So they hired people and delegated and hired people and delegated. And the fast you like you can if you work hard, like if you're crazy enough, almost anybody can brute force a consulting business to $1 million a year. You can make that work without systems and processes and a brand and all that stuff. Like you can just it can be it'll be super stressful, but you can do it. To get to $3 million a year, you need to learn how to sell. You need to have a sales process. You need to have something besides referrals, right? You need to have Upwork figured out. You need to have some source of consistent leads. And then to get from 3 to 5 million, I'm a very big believer that you need to have a personal brand. Like at that point, and personal brand is much easier. It's much easier to sell yourself and for people to want to hire you as an individual than it is for them to want to hire a company. One thing that, when I was an agency is I would oftentimes skip over agencies on Upwork when I was looking for help with something where I needed somebody to do a specific task. When agencies would respond, I'd be like, no, because like the person I'm talking to is probably not the person doing the work. And it was like it was a weakness of mine, but I always looked for individuals. And I think the same is very true just in terms of when you're getting started. So if it was me, I would, I would definitely start on Upwork, and I would invest really heavily in LinkedIn. But I would use LinkedIn to promote my work on Upwork and promote my profile on Upwork. I would give discounts to get video testimonials. Video is so powerful now, even in the age of AI and Gen AI and deepfakes. Like getting and like you don't want polished videos. You don't want high production videos, edited videos. You want your clients to just shoot them on their iPhone and for it to be grainy and the lighting to not be right, because that authenticity I think now matters more than ever. Um, but I would pick a specific industry. I would pick a service and I would pick an industry. So like the one thing that like again talking about Scott Johnson again from Amplified, when we started working together, he did everything for everybody. Like any client that wanted to hire them for SEO work they took on. And when we went and we looked at a mix of like, all right, who were your best clients? Who were the ones that like paid you the most, that were the least headaches, didn't bother you, stayed the longest? And then it was like tech and SaaS companies. And then when we drilled in even more, we're like, all right, well, like, is there any pattern to this? Like, are there certain types of SaaS companies that you seem to work with more? And we're like, oh, you've worked with like 4 cybersecurity companies. Like that's a growing field. They raise a lot of money. They tend to be very high margin businesses. These are companies that have budget. They'll spend money to acquire new customers. Let's take you and pivot and let's go really hard into cybersecurity. He was a little worried, as most people are, when you're like, hey, I think you should, because the number one fear whenever I talk about niching down to somebody that's already built a freelancing business is they're like, oh, but I have these customers over here that I have right now that are paying me and they don't fit that niche. Like they won't care if they're happy and they're working with you, they won't care that they're non-cybersecurity SaaS companies and you want to work with cybersecurity companies. So like we compromised a little bit. So if you read his headline, it's SEO for the AI era for SaaS and cybersecurity companies. However, if you look at the video testimonials, all the 4 of them that are right underneath the hero on the homepage, you'll notice something that's a little different. And it's very nuanced, but it makes a big difference in my opinion. The names and titles of those people are not there because nobody cares. Realistically, the people don't care who those people are. What they care about is what company do they work for. And so he included the logos, and all 4 of those logos are cybersecurity logos. So when a cybersecurity company goes to that webpage and they read that headline, they scroll down, they immediately see companies that they recognize. And again, it doesn't matter who at that company is the testimonial, it's that logo, it's that association. It's like, oh, this guy clearly works with cybersecurity companies. He's going to understand me. He's going to understand my problems. He's going to know how to help me. That it makes a massive difference in terms of conversion, in my opinion.
And I actually wanted to ask you a question regarding personal branding. It is, I think, become really competitive nowadays, building a personal brand, because everybody on Instagram and social media are talking about building a personal brand that to build just the credibility, to get more clients, to land more projects, and to just start something. So, what would you say on that? So, is it hard today nowadays?
I think it's way harder, but it's also like I think this is where AI actually becomes like the big unlock because it's distribution, right? Like how can you take one piece of content, how can you take an idea and turn it into a blog post and use that blog post to feed a GPT to create 10 LinkedIn posts and 10 X threads and 5 Instagram posts and like it seems like overkill, but the people who keep at it, it's like very much podcasting, right? Like 90% of podcasts that start never make it past their 10th episode. If you make it past 10 episodes, your probability of success, which is like reaching like 10,000 downloads a month, goes from like 20% to like 50% immediately. And then if you just keep going, for podcasts that make it past 100 episodes have like a 75% chance of like reaching 10,000 downloads. Like it's just sticking with it long enough. It's like very similar to what blogging used to be before like Google's AI overviews killed top of funnel traffic. It was just like if you blog long enough, it will turn into a business. Most people quit right before they're going to be successful. Like if you've ever seen that comic of the guy who is tunneling through the ground with a pickaxe and there's like a big pile of diamonds and you see the guy like who like is like turned around walking away like sad and he was like had he hit one more time he was going to crack open the diamond well and then you got the guy underneath it who's just sprinting like not even thinking about it who's absolutely going to find them and it's so true I think for freelancing business consulting business almost any media type anything where you need an audience to make sales which is just about everything these days, is I think a lot of people quit right before they're going to be successful. So just having the fortitude, I think, to sort of see it through and kind of keep going makes a big difference.
I think that's true. So constantly is the key to success. Quantity over quality.
Yeah, distribution. Yeah, just like distribution definitely is like the other thing. So there's a friend of mine named Ross Simmons, and he wrote a book called Create Once, Distribute Forever. And he talks about this idea that I really believe in, which is like the Pareto principle, 80/20, where it's like spend 20% of your time creating content and 80% of your time promoting it. And like that promotion today means distribution. It just means the same content on just more channels, more formats, more times. One thing a lot of people don't do is if they have a post or a tweet or they have something that like gets some traction, they don't repost it. They don't recycle it. You can, if you've got a popular post, you know this probably better than I do. You can recycle the same post 10 times. You can click a rewrite button in AI. It'll be the same topic, same content, same angle, just rewritten differently and just keep going. Like it's the reason why if you look at like a lot of the really big YouTubers in interviews, they'll talk about how they split test the titles of their videos and the thumbnails. And sometimes they're like same video, different thumbnail. This one got 100 views. This one got 15,000 views. Exactly the same. Only thing that was different was the thumbnail. It's just testing until you figure out what works.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. That was super interesting, super insightful, and I believe super helpful for our listeners as well. Do you guys have any questions to our guest, Tanik? If so, you can drop your questions in the chat, or otherwise, I think it's time to wrap the session up.
Thanks for
Or
having me.
maybe, yeah, it was so great. Today it was a little different. I really enjoyed the session. Thank you very much for taking the time.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much, Corbin.